Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Good afternoon, all.
Good people, this is it.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to our Rotary Club meeting on this Thursday. We're the third oldest Rotary Club in the world, and we certainly welcome each and every one of you who are here today. So we're going to start our meeting off with finding out whether or not we have any visiting Rotarians. If you so, would you please stand?
Well, I got some. Oh, that's true. Okay, I'm coming back to you.
I know we have one visiting Rotarian from San Francisco.
We have one visiting Rotarian from Lodi, who's soon going to be Oakland. We have two visiting Rotarians for Sonoma. And where is our San Francisco guy or gal?
He's here.
Okay, over
He's
there.
Here.
Oh, will you go stand by him? And I'm going to let these people introduce themselves. Here it comes.
Hi, my name's Shaunis Nelson, and I'm visiting from the Rotary Club of Sonoma Valley, and I'm the president-elect. Excited to be here. And this is Jeff Brohl, my partner. He is not a Rotarian, but yet. Working on it.
Hey, you to join this club instead of Sonoma, though.
It's a schlep. That's a schlep. All right. We're going to get to right here. Hold on. Major, hold on, everybody. All right.
I'm Major Richard Pease with the Salvation Army of Alameda County. Just transferred here about 4 weeks ago. I'm a member of the Lodi Club until I finish all the application process here, but my wife and I are the new Salvation Army officers responsible for all the work of the Salvation Army in Alameda County.
All right.
Soon to be an Oakland Rotarian.
Exactly.
Hello everybody, this is Roger Dong from San Francisco. I've had a very unusual career. I've been with Rotary for about 35 years. I was president of Rotary Taiwan 30 years ago. At the time, we had 200 clubs. Today, we have 1,000 clubs in Taiwan. Anyway, so I'm glad to be here. Briefly, I will have a message to put at the right time, sir. And right now, I turn this back to you.
And if you look on your table, there is there's a sheet of paper on there which tells you some information on what's going on with our friend from San Francisco. He's got a project called Project 2 Million, and he's trying 200 million. I'm sorry, 200 million. And so Roger has this program going. So please read that, and if you are interested, please let Roger know that you are interested, and he can take your name, and you can go from there. So thanks, Roger. Next, we'll have our thought for the day. And, oh, there you are.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jessica Chen, and I'm working on the Metropolitan Bank. I'm a new Rotary member, and today I'm going to bring the thought of the day. And I want to share this quote I learned maybe from when I was in high school. And when I first this quote is from the founder of global advertising company, Leo Bernard Worldwide. And then the first time when I read it, it was Chinese. So let me speak it in Mandarin. 伸手摘星，即使徒劳无功，亦不至于满手污泥. And then I find out the original quote is, when you reach for the stars, you may not quite get one, but you won't come out with a handful of mud either. So that's my thought of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. My bad, I forgot to ask if there are any guests that are not Rotarians. If so, would you please stand?
Look, it's Jose, everybody. I don't know who these people are, so I'm going to let him go very quickly. Jose, tell us who you are.
My name is Jose Barias. I'm with the Oakland Housing Authority.
Turn around, say hi to everybody. Who are you, my dear?
My name is Laura Birch, and I'm also with the Oakland Housing Authority.
Fantastic. Nice to see you, Laura. Oh, hello. You know, you're not a guest.
I know I'm not a guest, but I'd like to introduce my guest.
Introduce yourself first.
My name is Lisa Lamous. Can you hear me better now? You hold it like this, I believe. And my guest is Sanam. Here you are.
Hi, my name is Sanam Chaudhary, and I'll be joining Rotary pretty soon, yeah.
All right, that's good. We good.
Any other
Hello.
We
You're a
have,
guest,
one
you
more.
know. You, yes, sir, you stand up. And you stand up too. And introduce yourself first. He's your guest.
Thank you. So my name is Awa Maiga. I'm a new member here at Rotary, and it's lovely being with you here and being able to make an impact together. So here is my husband, Usman. I'm gonna give it the mic so that he can introduce himself.
Well, thank you, Jason. I'm Usman, and originally from West Africa, Burkina Faso, and I'm the husband today. Thank you.
That's funny.
Yes.
I have a visitor today who's soon going to be a member, and tell them.
Hello, my name's Kevin Hickey. I'm a local here in Oakland for many years, recently retired and got a lot more free time than I need, so hope to be working on some service projects.
Any other guests that we have? If not, thanks for coming, and we hope that those of you who are visiting and have not committed yourself to be a member, that you do think about being a member of Oakland Rotary number 3. Before we go any further, I want to explain something that we normally don't do until later on, until it happens. We have what's called ringing the bell. And when you ring the bell, what that does, it's a $100 donation to our endowment. You can ring the bell anytime during this 1 hour that we're here. You can ring it. I think there are little things on the table. You can pick it up and show that you want to donate at any time. David's got it showing right now. So don't hesitate to donate to our endowment. The next person that we're going to have coming up is Patricia, who is going to do her 3-minute introduction.
Good morning, Oakland Rotary. I am also from the Oakland Housing Authority, so I'm grateful to have my friends here with me today. And when I was told on Tuesday night I'd be doing my 3 minutes today, I thought, what do I talk about? Because I've already talked about OHA, which is my ministry. So I thought I'd share a little bit about my why. To make a long story short, when you look at me, you see a daddy's girl. When I was roughly about 1 year old, my father, the most incredible man to walk the face of this earth, I'm going to say his name, Charlie Wells, found himself with a wife with multiple sclerosis and 6 children from the ages of 1 through 19, that 19-year-old on his way to serve in the Vietnam War. And the interesting thing about Daddy, Mr. Wells, Charlie, is that he did not allow the loss of a healthy wife and the circumstance of having 6 little ones tear him down. Rather, he quoted from one of my favorite books, Queen Esther, to say, we are here for such a time as this. So I grew up in the church, in the nursing home where my mom was placed, in our community, understanding that benefit and love in life is giving back. So at a very young age, I was mowing lawns, shoveling snow, because you might remember I'm from Philly, serving at the neighborhood community kitchen. So service wasn't anything we did. It's not even anything I do now. It's who I am. And so along that path, there were many, many opportunities to serve. So for example, in school, hey, would you be willing to be class president? Patricia, okay. When I got into my career in DC, Patricia, would you mind helping the president of this South African country? Okay. Patricia, when you join the Housing Authority, Patricia, we need somebody to help a new endeavor to take 1,600 units of public housing and convert it to project-based Section 8. Are you up for the task? I said, of course, okay. And in fact, here in Oakland, I had someone dear to me, CJ, say, Patricia, would you put on a costume and be Snow White in the Oakland Holiday Parade, even though it's 4 sizes too small? And I said to CJ, okay, not once, but twice. And so if you look back in the trib, you might see a picture of a very Rubenesque Snow White who couldn't button the back of her costume, but we hid it with a cape. And so when you talk about why Rotary, it's because we embody here in Oakland, and number 3, all the things that I was taught by my daddy, that for such a time as this, there's an opportunity to love through service, there's an opportunity to give grace when mistakes are made, and there's an opportunity to make the world better one moment at a time. And so I am looking forward to doing what Daddy taught me and serving here with you as we do over at the Oakland Housing Authority. Thank you for all you do.
We have a bell ringer. CJ.
Formerly with Children's Fairyland, I would love to ring the bell for my friend Patricia. She rocked Snow White. Thank you.
Thank you, CJ. During the course of this year, I think when we had my induction, it was very, very short, and it was short on purpose because I wanted people to have fun. But during the course of the year, you'll hear snippets of what we want to do during the course of the year. So one of the things that we are going to be doing is we're going to have our various committees come before you, not just to tell you what they're doing, but to show you what they've been doing so that you can understand what we're doing with your money and the projects that we're doing both locally and the projects that we're doing globally. We do a lot of good work. We are one of the best clubs, definitely in this district. So today we're going to have our World Services Committee to come before you and tell you about what they're doing, and they're going to show you exactly what we do with our World Service Funds.
Thank you, President Merlin. I'm Stephanie Kazenza, and I'm co-chair of the World Community Services Committee, and I hope that Rochelle Carpelas, who is our chair, she's online. She works in Walnut Creek, so it's a little difficult for her to get here for our meetings, is also online. And so what we're doing today is we're talking about World Community Services, the Carl Stuckey World Community Services Committee, and how your donations to Rotary make this work possible. Next slide, please. So first of all, for those of you who don't know who Carl Stuckey was, he's storied in the world of Rotary and in this club. He was a member for probably 50 years, because he was a Rotarian for 50 years, at least. He was past president of our club. He was a district governor. And what really makes him special in my mind is he pioneered the kind of work we do in World Community Services today. He made over 100 trips around the world, many of them to places like Colombia and Guatemala, to do the kind of work that we talk about today, helping other countries do what's right for them. So that just gives you an idea. Is Rochelle on? I can't tell. Oh, well. Thank you. So what do we do? Okay, good. This is Rochelle, if you've never met her. She is the chair of this committee, which arguably is one of the most complex in Rotary in terms of the amount of paperwork and detail that we have to follow to do these grants. All right, next slide, Peter, in terms of what we do. So the Carl Stuckey World Community Services Committee promotes world peace through increased understanding among people worldwide. And very simply, that's what we do. And we do that through grants, and we also do special projects such as educational scholarships and exchanges. Next slide. So your donations to the Oakland Rotary Endowment, ORE for short, and Rotary International are what help make our work possible. We're able to plan, finance, and implement grants throughout the world that promote world peace and make countries a better place. Next slide. So here's some examples. You'll see on one side a mobile clinic in Colombia. We helped, other clubs came to us and we agreed to help fund this project so they can go around in rural areas and provide healthcare services that otherwise are not possible for people in that part of Colombia. And again, those are your donations that help make this work possible. On the other side, we've been doing work in Guatemala for decades. Past President Shannon, who I don't think is here today, has been down to Guatemala quite a bit. Carl Stuckey was her mentor. But we fund educational, basic literacy, computers, all the things that these students don't otherwise have. We sometimes forget how fortunate we are in this country. So a few $100s, a few $1,000s in American dollars goes a long way. Next slide, please. Other ways that you help people in developing countries to help themselves. And this is an example of a rainwater harvesting project where in Tanzania they can collect the water because they don't always have wells easily, and they do have drought. So they can collect the water and they can grow their plants, and then we taught them how to make tents to protect them from extreme heat and other issues. So again, they're helping themselves because our goal in these grants is sustainability and teaching people how to help themselves whenever possible. So this is a perfect example, and this is a grant that we were actually the global sponsor on, and Rochelle was involved with that one. Rochelle, did you want to say anything?
Women made the water reservoirs out of stucco. So the women were trained to stack and to make the reservoirs themselves. And that was a job, or they were able to take profit from that. Thank you, Stephanie.
You're welcome. Okay, next slide. Okay, other ways that your grants help, we also partner with humanitarian groups, and our Gail Okama, we've worked with her Lantern projects for many years, over-the-counter medications for countries, in war-torn countries where they don't have access. In India, we were part of a global grant for cataract screening and surgery. Again, those are things that we help people to improve and access and improve their health. Next slide, please. So just a reminder, it's your donations to Rotary by attending the gala, making a donation of any amount to Oakland Rotary Endowment, and giving to Rotary International. Again, any amount helps fund what World Community Services does. It's probably 99% of how we are able to do our work. And if you don't know, the gifts that we give to Rotary International each year, they're invested, and then 3 years later they come back to us through the district, called District Designated Funds, or fondly as we talk about it, DDF. So again, that's the importance of contributing to those two entities to make this kind of work possible around the world. Next slide. So we'd love to have you on the committee. If you're interested, there's quite a few members in this committee right now that are here today, but we always welcome new people, and we have hybrid meetings monthly on the second Tuesday, and we'd love to see you there. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Are there any questions? We'll entertain a maximum of 2 questions, if there are any. Yes, Barbara.
Stephanie, that was a great introduction. I can't resist saying one thing, which is that when we donate to Rotary International, and as you said, after 3 years of investment, it comes back to us out of income. That money, called District Designated Funds, is what's used to match grants that we make, where we get an 80% match through those DDF funds. So we come up with 20% and Rotary International comes up with 80%. So it's an excellent way to do this funding. And from Carl Stuckey, I just want to repeat what you said, Stephanie. We don't superimpose our ideas on other countries. We find out what they want, what they need, and then we facilitate with our resources. Thank you.
question.
Hold
in
on,
the
I
back.
got my guest over here who's going to be joining us soon.
My question is quick. Did you say the meetings are the second Tuesday? Yes. Is that here? Okay. Is that all on the website? Yes. Okay, thank you.
You're going to learn all about this.
Or reach out to me, I'll help.
Joe's got a question. Past President Joe Goralka. Hold on, everybody. Hold on.
You better get a life. Since Mary Jiang is not here, Stephanie, I'd like to ask you, are those donations tax deductible?
Thank you. And just to, I constantly say, we don't want to be the best. We want to be the best of the best. And the reason why I'm saying that is because out of all of the 63 clubs in this district, because Oakland Rotary number 3 is so good, we get more money from the DDF fund than any of the other clubs. So let's keep the spirit going, let's keep the donations going, and we'll continue doing World Services. Our committee will continue to do the work that we're doing with World Services Committee. So thank you. Next, I'm going to introduce to you Ann Brick, and Ann will introduce our speaker for the day.
Good afternoon. We are a nation that prides itself on being governed by the rule of law. That is key to our American democracy. And that is the subject that we are going to hear about today from our speaker, Harold Qualwasser. Hal is one of the California coordinators for an organization called Lawyers Defending American Democracy. LDAD is a nonprofit organization whose purpose is to defend the rule of law and safeguard judicial independence. And in addition, one of its purposes is to hold accountable those who would undermine the rule of law or judicial independence. So you won't be surprised to hear that Hal himself is a lawyer who has had a very distinguished legal career. He got his law degree from Yale, where he was an editor of the Law Review. And then, in addition to 18 years in private practice doing antitrust law in Los Angeles, he was the Deputy General Counsel at the U.S. Department of Defense, and then spent 4 years as General Counsel to the LA Unified School District. And Hal tells me that he went from his work at the Pentagon to work at LAUSD, which was a war zone. And those of you who know the work of school districts know he wasn't kidding. That's a really tough job. So we are going to hear from Hal today about caring about the rule of law and saving our precious institutions that make America great. Please welcome Harold Qualwasser.
Well, first of all, greetings from Sebastopol Noon, where I was president a few years ago. They wish you all well and admire what you do down here. Let me start with a couple of preliminary things. There are no slides today. We seem to have deep sixed them or 86th them or whatever the right phrase is. But I'm happy with that because I'm delighted if you'll just look at me and we'll have a nice face-to-face conversation. I'm good at looks. I've got a golden doodle. I've learned how to beg. That's a great look. Believe me, you'll love it. And I just finished a book on Thurgood Marshall, so I know how to do fiery rhetoric. So somewhere between those two and whatever's in between, this should, I hope, be an interesting half-hour discussion. All right, let me get started by the preliminaries. What's Lawyers Defending American Democracy? About a decade ago, various lawyers, most of them on the older side, were appalled at the abuse that the courts started to take, both with threats to their independence and generally bad behavior on behalf of some lawyers, the collective effect of which was to threaten the rule of law in America. And they decided that there needed to be an organization that would hold rogue lawyers to account, and also that would promote respect for the rule of law. Hence, Lawyers Defending American Democracy was born. And I appreciate you all being willing to take some time to listen to me, because one of the things that animates us right now is that in all the discussion of immigration and inflation and ill-begotten wars, nobody's talking about the fact that the courts have been abused, the rule of law has been ignored, and independence of the judiciary has been threatened. You know, when you get a list of what's motivating people these days, you see immigration, you see the war, you see inflation. You rarely see rule of law or democracy. And so we've set up this project called Meeting the Moment to try to get out to America and say, you know, you really have to understand that the rule of law is threatened here, and if it goes away, what is fundamental and essential and existential about America goes away. And it doesn't just affect America in some cosmic, hypothetical way. It affects each and every one of you. Your life as an American, as you know it, is under threat. Lawyers Defending American Democracy is made up of Republicans, Democrats, independents. We scrupulously do not talk about elections. That's not our goal. Our goal is to make you understand that you have got to be part of an effort to save democracy. Silence will kill it. Your voice will save it. So let me tell you what I'm going to do today. I'm going to try to convey to you a better understanding of the rule of law so this phrase, which has no operative meaning particularly, comes to life for you. At least that's the goal. Little nerdy, but valuable. And then I want to bring home to each of you, with some examples, how the rule of law is important for your own conception of yourself. And it's conception that makes you proud to be an American, that distinguishes you from so many other countries around the world. Its value is incalculable, but you've got to understand that and then decide what you want to do about it. And finally, I want to give you some ideas for how you might show your support for the rule of law. Here's the challenge with this whole subject. In the last 250 years, there really has not been a big challenge to the rule of law. I spent one afternoon a couple of months ago with Catherine Lohman, who's a UC Berkeley law professor. And her view was that the Civil War was a greater threat to the rule of law than now. And I took the contrary view, and after an hour of going back and forth, I think I'm right. Because this is intentional. This is not excused by some emergency like a civil war. This is serious and it's new, and we don't have a vocabulary for it. We don't think about it because we have so many other things we could think about, all of which are much more familiar to us as issues that you think of in an election season. You know, it used to be that James Carville's phrase, "It's the economy, stupid," was the top line of virtually any discussion of what people were concerned about. And while we certainly think that Carville's not wrong, we'd like it to be amended that this year, it's the rule of law, stupid. Now, here's the nerdy part. Let's flesh out what the rule of law is. I looked, when I first wrote this speech, I looked for somebody's simple, easy definition. I didn't like any of them. So you'll have to bear with me as I read my version of what the rule of law is supposed to be about, but it's not terribly long, so just bear with me. Our country's laws are, 1, found in the Constitution or written by representatives who are fairly elected in meaningful elections. 2, they're written to clearly state one's rights and obligations. 3, they're enforced by judges or government executives who are independent and unbiased. 4, they're administered in a way to give all parties the ability to be heard so that they can protect their interests. 5, they're dependent upon fact-based inquiry and equal treatment of all similarly situated people or entities. 6, they're transparent in their application. 7, they're subject to effective and fair oversight, both inside and outside the government. If a Rotarian said, sounds a little bit like the four-way test, I'd say yes, and that's why I hope I have a ready audience here today. Because if you think about trying to apply the four-way test outside of the confines of a Rotary Club, I think I've described the kind of civil society you'd like to see. So, the other thing I want to say about this definition of the rule of law is that there's some things that are contexts that are important, that go along with it, if not specifically part of the rule of law. There's free speech, free press, the right to assemble, the right to petition. There's a complementary set of customs that address situations not covered by laws that are consistent with the fair administration of the law, such as an independent Department of Justice. The prevailing ethos in the country is that citizens have a sufficient level of respect for those with whom they disagree to assure that all sides will play by the same set of rules. And then there's a final one. There's a serious respect for the truth. Here are some of the telltales that tells you that something is amiss here. So far as I'm concerned, this is my list. I think you could all make your own lists, and they'd all probably be accurate. But let me do mine. So the telltales are, there's been serious defiance of the courts. There's been really questionable rationalizations for all sorts of actions. There's vilification of marginalized groups, excessive use of military in lieu of civilian personnel, control of the media and learning, cult of personality, sowing doubts about elections, corruption that favors political leaders or friends. So, if you think about whether the specifics of the rule of law are being followed or whether the context looks a little frayed at the moment, I think you draw the quick conclusion that we're in trouble. But here's the problem. Let's assume that the economy is good and we're at peace. Let's also assume that our country's leaders are deliberately ignoring the rule of law. Would you vote for them regardless? Now think about what you've seen on television. And if the economy were good, there were no crazy wars, would that maybe change some votes? Even though the rule of law was being shredded up and down, right and left. Would you vote for them, or would you draw the same kind of line you draw if the economy was terrible, or if we were about to embark on an unwanted war? Would you make clear to our leaders that the failure to observe the rule of law is enough to get you to oppose them in the same way a bad economy or military adventurism would? James Carville's adage really does need to be rewritten, at least for this election. Now, the challenge that we've seen at LDAD is that although the rule of law is getting shredded regularly, there's really been relatively little said about it. If you go to an Indivisible or No Kings rally, you see signs. But that's about it. And that makes us nervous, because if we all don't stand up and say stop or say no, people will take it as permission to keep going. And at some point, if they keep going, the loss becomes irretrievable. The challenge here is exactly what I've just stated. You need to rise up. You need to do something. You need to say no, and you need to say no in a way that conveys to decision makers in government of all parties, all time, we trust the rule of law, we need the rule of law, we're watching you. It's not happening. And what I'd like to do now is share with you some examples that I want you to think about as if you were the people in the examples, and ask yourself the question after you think about what I'm going to read to you, whether that would affect your self-concept or the concept of yourself as an American citizen. My hope is that it does, and it brings home to you the importance of rising up in your own way to say stop, to say no, to say we value the rule of law. So, first example. What if your name is incredibly common? Luis Garcia, for example. If you live in a decent-sized city today, there are likely at least a dozen Luis Garcias in town. The police mistake you for someone else and haul you off to jail. Now, you want to clear up the confusion. Best way to do that would be to appear before an independent and fair judge to whom you could explain who you are. How would you feel if it turned out there was no procedure to make that happen, or no fair and independent judge to hear you? Now, let's say you get a hearing. What if the judge is predisposed to believe the police, or, if you're in a civil case, is friends with your opponent? The judge is seeking higher office and fears that treating you fairly or deciding in your favor would ruin his chances. You're black or Hispanic, and there are no people who look like you on the jury. Does such a hearing feel fair? Now let's turn to another subject, but one that I know is of great interest to all of us. You're a parent of a school-age child. At the school board meeting, you denounced the way the district is handling students who are disruptive. You have now angered both the school board and the police. The next day, a police officer comes to your door and tells you that you are being investigated for an unsolved crime in the neighborhood, even though there's nothing in your background that suggests you should be under suspicion. Will you go back to the school board to complain about something else? Or let's continue on with free speech, since it's so important. You want to make clear that a certain issue that is important to you has your support, and the support of lots of like-minded people. You join a peaceful demonstration in front of City Hall. The police attack you with clubs, pepper spray, and seemingly randomly grab people and drag them off to waiting police cars. So, you're going to go back to City Hall next month for another demonstration? What if the government just lies about you? You're a federal worker. Despite having a string of excellent performance reviews, the government dismisses you and justifies the firing in a letter to you explaining you've been a terrible employee. Notwithstanding the law, which actually should give you a right to appeal, and related Office of Personnel Management rules, you have no opportunity to object to get your job back. So, if that job were ever offered to you in the future, would you take it? Or how about, let's change to the economic side of the rule of law. It's not just personal. We've done personal stuff, but it's not just personal. It's how this economy runs or doesn't run. You're an established business owner. Half of what you sell comes from overseas. One day, without warning or any consideration by the Congress, new tariffs are imposed that will raise your cost of doing business by 20%. That will squeeze your business or bankrupt you. Your local representative tells you he or she has no way to help you, notwithstanding the dire situation. Now, does that episode convince you that the business environment is too risky for you, so you give up the company you love? Or what if you're a major tech firm somewhere down the road with a business plan that includes a major push to open new markets in China? One of your competitors makes a product that the government worries may have military uses and decides to prohibit its export. That company gets the government to reverse the ban by promising to give the government a substantial share of the profits from sale of the product in China. Your company's not making enough to match the offer, and among other things, you now worry that the other company will always be favored over you in any further negotiations. Do you go through with your China plans anyway? Maybe you're a banker. Do we have any bankers in the audience? Ah, all right, let's terrorize you for a second. You're a banker, which means you work in an industry heavily regulated by government, right? You're all complaining, fine, good. The leader of your government, who among other things hires and fires those who regulate your bank, has a family business that is in the crypto industry. There's a regulatory issue that has divided your industry. The government has not decided which side of the issue it will favor. One of your competitors buys millions of dollars of crypto from the family. Do you feel as if the other side now has an advantage? Do you need to do the same? Do you wonder how many times this is going to happen? And just to keep it going, the lawyers in the room, please. All right, enough to be terrified. You're a partner in a law firm. The firm has historically done work pro bono, that's for free, for various causes. The government tells you that unless the firm changes its focus to issues the government favors, you will be barred from courthouses and won't be able to try cases, and you'll have your security clearances withdrawn without the hearing required by law. Moreover, the government has reached out to your competitors such that they're ready to steal away your clients, who may now be worrying about whether they are harmed by being associated with you. Does your law firm simply capitulate? One final one. People have kids in college? A few anyway. All right. You're a college freshman. You decide to go to this school because of its great humanities program. The government claims some students have been harassed in violation of the law. To avoid a significant millions of dollars fine, the government demands, among other things, that the school totally revise your prized humanities program. The college thinks it has no choice but to agree. Are you going to come back to college for your sophomore year? Do you wonder who gave the government power to tell professors what they can teach? Let me take a poll, all right? I want you now to tell me back what you think about my examples. Would you feel as if your basic rights were significantly curtailed, modestly curtailed, or not curtailed at all by these examples? Significantly curtailed. All right, that's pretty good. Moderately curtailed? A few moderates. Anybody not curtailed at all? Okay. Well, the question is, and I will take 1 minute to do this. All right. What can you do? You sort of sit here, you feel maybe helpless, or you just never done this before, so you need to know what to do. First of all, try to find friends. It's always easier to do these things together than to do them separately. And treat as your object, making clear to your political leaders that you expect them to defend the rule of law vigorously, as well as defend the judiciary. So, various things to do. Post on your favorite social media sites a message explaining your views. If you're on social media, this is an older crowd, but some of you, I'm sure, are on social media. Do it. If you happen to know someone with a podcast, encourage them to take up the issue. Or reach out to 10 friends by email or phone and ask them to support your views. Write a letter to the editor of your local paper. Write your elected representatives. And finally, of course, you can join Lawyers Defending American Democracy. We can use your help to spread the word. And I have a favor to ask. We are all part of a great network of Rotary clubs. I would love to repeat this speech in as many Rotary clubs as I can. And if you think that that would be a good idea, I would greatly appreciate your telling the Speakers Bureau and those other clubs that there's a really good speaker who would like to come and bend your ear for a little while. So thank you.
So are there any questions?
David Daniels will be first.
Can I say, just to start, I got a question from somebody, and it includes the word Trump. And as a nonpartisan organization, we just can't respond to these. If somebody who wrote this wants to talk to me afterward, that's fine. But we keep away from direct politics. Yes.
So thank you for speaking with us today. I have two questions, probably neither of which are quick. One is, how did we transition to calling judges liberal and conservative versus strict constructionists and those who believed in a living constitution? I mean, it seems to me that's maybe in the last 20 years, and it really bothers me. And the second is, could you talk a little bit about the use of executive orders? I mean, Biden, Trump, Obama, first day in office, they all signed dozens, if not hundreds, of executive orders in the expansion of presidential power.
All right, let me see if I can take those two quickly. We got here largely at the as the result of the work of the Federalist Society, which rigorously campaigned for the nomination of conservative judges on a fairly specific platform. That was not how we used to do it. When I got out of law school, there was no Federalist Society. There was an emphasis on quality and independence of mind. And the Federalist Society has exceeded beyond its wildest expectations. With regard to executive orders, everybody's done them for years. Some of them are famous. Some of them are useful, some are not useful. Japanese removal was done by an executive order. It's not the mere existence of an executive order that's problematic. What is problematic is that the executive orders seek to achieve things that should be done through the Congress, mostly. And so they are essentially defanging the Congress by trying to push these things through. To the credit of the judiciary, which is one of the things that makes it important that you all speak up, is that the judges have by and large not allowed them to get away with very much that should go to the Congress, tariffs being the prime example. But if you think about it, the Constitution is a lot better conceived than their vision of government, because instead of having a 20% tariff imposed that in fact then raises prices to you by an equivalent 20%, it would be subject to the debate of Congress, and you'd flesh out the pros and the cons of doing things. And that was the way it worked in the past and should work in the future. You can't substitute executive orders for things that the Constitution has wisely given to the Congress.
Here we go. Because, you know, I know this crew. Okay, I got you. You first. Nice to see you again, Karen.
Nice to see you too. So, one of the things that you said that you want us to engage in is reaching out to our representatives and asking for them to support the rule of law. But do you feel like our representatives are capable of doing that? You just explained that Congress is not stepping up and managing tariffs. Congress is not stepping into the places where the executive orders are overstepping their bounds. So how can we expect our representatives to uphold the rule of law if they're not willing to take a stand?
Well, they're not willing to take a stand. Here's my half full, half empty response to that. If they don't hear from you, it means it doesn't count. They can go their way without addressing the issue because nobody's looking. And I fear that if you were to go through the congressional offices these days, you would rarely see letters or phone call notes about the denigration of the rule of law. The whole point of your writing, calling, posting is to make clear to your representatives, including both parties, that we're watching. And we want you to do the right thing. I worked on the Hill for several years. It does count. And the absence also counts. If there are no letters, if there are no newspaper editorials, they don't care, because it's never going to hurt them.
You're next, Bill. Margot, you have a mic? No, I have a mic. It's me, Marlene. I apologize.
Hi, could you talk a little bit more about what your organization does to address the problems that you've been identifying other than spreading awareness?
Great. I would be delighted to do that. One of the principal things that the organization has done for the last several years is file bar complaints for lawyers who abuse the rule of law and breach the requirements of Rule 11 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, which essentially says don't lie to people, file things timely and accurately. We filed the bar complaint that led to Rudy Giuliani's disbarment. We have filed a bar complaint in New York against Todd Blanche. We filed a bar complaint against John Eastman. They have been effective in basically getting these people kicked out of the bar. Let me say this. One of the things that makes this poignant for me is this. When I became a lawyer, I thought I was going to make my way in the world because of what I knew, not whom I knew. The current trend is to value whom you know and not what you know. And I don't want that kind of practice of law, and neither do any of the lawyers who are associated with LDAD. What we want is more pressure. We try to file letters or bar complaints 2 or 3 times a month because there's a lot of stuff that needs defending and a lot of stuff that people need to be held and account for. And if any of you want to join either this part of LDAD, which goes out and speaks, or that part which writes bar complaints, briefs, amicus, please do. We want to have you. And of course, we'll also take your dollars. We maintain a small leadership staff in Boston. But, you know, the biggest thing is just do something. Roil the waters. And, you know, and if you want to do it with us, we'd be delighted to have you.
Do we have time for a quick one? Is it quick, Bill?
Very quick.
Very quick.
Thank you for being here. In my view, if you look at the and its decisions on Citizens United, its gutting of the Voting Rights Act, and its installation of an imperial presidency, one of the greatest threats to the rule of law and democracy is the Supreme Court itself. I wonder what you'd say about that.
I think all of us worry about how far the court will go in allowing the executive branch to freewheel on its own. There's no question that money is a major issue, but I will tell you that money does not always win elections. What wins elections is when you go out and walk around your block and talk to every one of your neighbors and say, you know, rule of law is important. You should vote for the people who support the rule of law. It is amazing what people power can do. Take 10 postcards, write them to 10 friends, send 10 media posts. People power can work. Yes, I agree, it is badly distorting things, to your point, but it's not a cause for despair. You can beat it by people power. I just finished a biography of Thurgood Marshall, and it concentrates on the period of 1935 to 1955, when the black community in the South was oppressed and terrified by Jim Crow. And, you know, Thurgood Marshall's great contribution to American history that is undervalued substantially is what a brilliant political organizer he is, or was, because he got people who had no money and totally terrified to stand up, become plaintiffs, give a buck, and he won. In the end, he won, despite all the money, all the power arrayed against him. And it is the motto we need now. So do something. Whatever it is, do something.
Our last question comes from someone online, and it says,
thank you. This is without classes. To support rule of law, how can we educate and motivate younger voters? And which digital media platform is your organization using to promote your message?
Okay. If you go to ldad.org, ldad.org, there are wonderful resources that you can use to help compose, whether it's a letter to the editor or a social post or whatever. So that's one thing. 2, we use any media platform that people have on their own. We want this message to come from you, not from LDAD, but we want it from you to your neighbors, to your friends, to your law partners, to your business partners, because that's the message they will pay attention to.
Thank you very much. And on behalf of our Rotary Club, we'd like to present you with, actually, it's a very new book. You're one of the first people to get it. It's regarding our Rotary Club in our entire district. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. On behalf of 5130, I thank you for the book for 5170.
Are there any questions? Any other questions? Any announcements? Any announcements?
Next week's program?
That's next.
Sorry.
No announcements. Then, David, I think you're going to tell us, CJ is going to tell us who the wonderful speaker is going to be for next week.
Thank you, President Merlin. Well, restaurant reviewing continues to evolve. For a few decades, it was a time of big expense accounts and lavish disguises. Then came Yelp and paid influencers, which democratized the process where everyone can write a review. Now, only a handful of reviewers at big newspapers and upscale publications are left. Are they still relevant? Come next week to hear food critic, award-winning author, and consultant to food writers, Diane Jacob.
Thank you. So as we close the meeting, I want you to remember that business is our world and service is our commitment. This meeting is adjourned.